So in today's lecture, we are going to do a review of Laplace transforms. Try to understand what an LTI system, a linear time invariant system, is, and we are going to introduce the concept of transfer function. Okay. So review of Laplace transforms. Now, first we will start with what an LTI system is. Any system can be, in general, it can be divided into two. One is linear system, linear, and non-linear. Okay? And a system is said to be linear if it obeys both superposition principle and homogeneity property. Homogeneity property. Okay? So that is what is written here. System is said to be linear if it satisfies both superposition principle and homogeneity property. What is superposition principle? Suppose you have a system like this. Okay, there is some system here, right? You are giving an input R1 of t. Let Y1 of t be the corresponding output. To the same system, I am giving another input R2 of t. And let Y2 be the output corresponding to R2 of t. Now, if to the same system, I give a superposition of the individual outputs. What do you mean by that? R1t plus R2t, R1t plus R2t. And if that leads to a superposition of the individual outputs, Y1t plus Y2t, then we say superposition principle holds good. Okay, so any linear system, any linear system has to satisfy this property. Okay, and it is a necessary condition. Okay, it is necessary condition for a system to be linear. The superposition principle has to be satisfied. Fine. Now, the next property is homogeneity. Again, what is homogeneity? Consider the same system. Okay, you give an input R of t. Fine. Let Y of t be the corresponding output. Now, when I give a scaled input, the scaling factor is alpha. Okay, alpha can be greater than 1, maybe less than 1. If I give a scaled input and if I am getting a scaled output, then homogeneity property is also satisfied. Okay, so a linear system should satisfy both superposition principle and homogeneity property. So homogeneity property means the magnitude scale factor is preserved. Fine. Now, suppose you have a system like this. Y equals, say, 3u plus 2. Okay, where y is the output and u is the input. Is the system represented by this equation, y equal to 3u plus 2, linear? Just think. Is the system governed by the equation y equal to 3u plus 2 linear or not? It is linear? No, it is non-linear. It is not linear. Why it is not linear? It is not linear because, see, let us apply some inputs. Say you are giving u1 equal to, say, 1, u2 equal to, u2 of t equal to 2. Okay, let us see what are the corresponding outputs, y1 of t and y2 of t, right? So u3 must be a superposition of the inputs, 3, 1 plus 2. Okay, now when you put u1 equal to 1, what will you get? 3 plus 2, 5. Your output is 5. Now when you put u2 as 2, what will you get? 6 plus 2, 8. So a superposition of the inputs, 1 plus 2, 3. What is that? 3 into 3, 9, 9 plus 2, 11. Okay, is it equal to y1 plus y2? No, it is not equal to y1t plus y2t. So the system represented by this equation is not linear, even though the equation is mathematically linear. Okay, this is the idea. Now, what do you mean by time? So these linear systems can be clubbed again, can be classified in two categories. One is time varying system and time invariant system. Linear systems. can be classified into two: time invariant and time varying. What do you mean by time invariant? Time invariant means the parameters are constant. They are independent of time. Okay, they are fixed. Whatever be the time, the parameters remain fixed and they are constant. Okay, say for example, an RC circuit, your resistance, inductance, and capacitance, they are fixed for a they are constant values, right? They do not change with time. But in the case of a launch vehicle, what happens to the mass? Mass is a function of time t. In fact, you will speak always in terms of mass rate m dot t. Okay, their mass gets consumed at every second. Okay, and there will be a large change in the mass in the mass carried by the vehicle. Okay, so in the case of a launch vehicle, mass is not a constant; it is a time-dependent variable, right? In which case we say that it is a time-varying system, right? So in this course, we are more concentrated. We will be bothered about what is called LTI systems, linear time invariant systems. Linear time invariant systems. Okay, or LTI systems. So what all techniques we are doing in this course are strictly applicable for linear time invariant systems. And they are governed by real coefficient ordinary differential equations, okay, which can be solved using Laplace transform. That's why we'll be reviewing Laplace transforms very soon. Okay. Now, so I told you that we are interested in linear time invariant systems, but practically there are no linear systems in the strict sense. Okay, all systems have one form or another kind of non-linearities. For example, if you consider an amplifier, after some time amplifier gets saturated. Okay, which means it is a not which is not a linear element. Okay, or in the case of a motor, there may be a dead zone. You apply a voltage, it may not give the output. Okay, increase the input voltage. Then after a particular value only, it will start giving the output. That means the motor is also that means the motor also has a non-linearity called dead zone. Or in the case of a gear train, okay, there may be a backlash. Okay, the teeth of the smaller one has to reach test the upper one. Then only it will start rotating. Correct. So that means there will be a kind of non-linearity called backlash in the gear trains. Okay. So all physical systems have some non-linearities. Okay. Then how will you solve that? How will you apply the techniques that can be applied to a linear systems? We have to linearize them. Okay. We have to linearize them about an operating point. Okay. So it is based on the expansion of the nonlinear function into a Taylor series about the operating point. Then what will you do? We will ignore the higher order terms, right? And we will be just operating with we will be retaining the linear terms for it, right? Now, what is Taylor series? Suppose we have a function f of x. Okay, we have a function f of x, right? And x naught is your equilibrium point. So we'll expand that f of x naught plus first derivative df by dx at x naught into x minus x naught. Okay, so what does this indicate? It indicates the difference from the neighborhood. Okay, or you can say the difference from the equilibrium point or the neighborhood of the equilibrium point. Okay, unfortunately, there are no hard and fast rules telling how far or how small it should be. It should be away from the equilibrium point. Okay, so what happens if the distance is too far? If the neighborhood is too large, what happens? The accuracy of the certain model will be badly affected. Okay, you will get only a bad model, right? So as the difference becomes smaller, you will have a more and more good approximation. Okay. So this x minus x naught for all small excursions, then we can ignore the higher order terms. Say for example, x minus x naught is 0.01. So obviously x minus x naught square will be what? 0.01 whole square, which means even smaller. So in that case, you can ignore. But suppose x minus x naught is 2, then what happens? X minus x naught square becomes 4, which cannot be ignored. Okay, so you will continue. So this is the first order derivative. What is the next term? D square f by dx square at x naught into x minus x naught by 2 factorial plus etc. Okay, So we are interested only in the linear terms. Only this much term only we need to consider. Why? Because since the x minus x naught difference is very small, x minus x naught square will become negligibly small. Okay, which means we can approximate the given function f of x like this. Okay, so f of x minus f of x naught will be approximately equal to this thing, right? So this I can call as delta f of x. It is change in function, and this I can call as the change in the exponent delta x. So the original nonlinear function f of x has now been linearized in delta f of x comma delta x comma delta f of x. Okay, the change in the function has been linearized. Okay, it is a linear relationship between delta x, delta f of x, and delta x for small excursions from the equilibrium point x naught. Okay. Now suppose your functions depend on many variables, say x1, x2, etc. Then what if the change? Change is that instead of taking the full derivative, you have to go for the partial derivative. Dou f by dou x1 at x naught into x1 minus x1 naught plus dou f by dou x2 at x naught into x2 minus x2 naught plus blah blah blah. Okay. So this is what is shown here graphically. Okay, a nonlinear function is given in the black curve. We are linearizing that about the operating point at this point. Operating point, what are the coordinates? X naught comma f of x naught. Okay, so we have to linearize that about that particular operating point, x naught comma f of x naught. Okay, so we will consider only the first order terms, right? So f of x minus f of x naught will be this thing. Delta f of x will be slope at that point into the change in the x coordinate. Okay, so in this way we can linearize. New set of axes is created at the point A, and f of x is approximately equal to f of x naught plus small excursions away from point A. This is how we linearize a nonlinear function. So now it's time to do a problem. Let us try this. Linearize f of x equals 5 cos x. Try this. Okay, so what is f of x? So f of x is 5 cos x. Okay, so as per Taylor series, what will be f of x? F of x will be f of x naught plus df by dx at x naught into x minus x naught. Okay, so what is f of x naught? F of x naught at the operating point is pi by 2. So 5 cos pi by 2, which is 0. Okay, now what is df by dx? Df by dx will be minus 5 sin x. Okay, so df by dx at x naught will be what? Minus 5 sin pi by 2. That means minus 5. Okay, so what did you get? F of x equals, what is f of x naught? F of x naught means 5 cos pi by 2, 0. Okay, so 0 minus 5 into x minus x naught. So minus 5 into x naught is pi by 2. So we have seen that x minus x naught is nothing but delta x. So we can write this as minus 5 delta x. So what will you get? Delta f of x is equal to minus 5 delta x. Okay, so the nonlinear function 5 cos x has now been linearized in delta f of x and delta x. Why this is nonlinear here? Because of the cosine term. Okay, so if you have an equation having sin x, cosine x, or tan x, such trigonometric terms, then you call such equations as transcendental equations. Transcendental equations. Okay, they are all nonlinear and they have to be linearized like this. Fine. So let's go to the next topic. Next problem. Yeah, you have a pendulum here. Okay, and a pendulum is given as shown below. Right. So the equilibrium position is the vertical line, dashed line as shown. You are applying a control torque Tc by which the pendulum is deflected from the equilibrium position. Okay, which is constant torque. The position is fixed. Right. So this pendulum has a length of L. The mass is m, and there's a weight acting downward, vertically down. You know it's mg. Fine. So how will you write the differential equation governing this? So this force can be resolved into two components. Mg can be resolved in two components. One mg cos theta and one mg sin theta. So Tc is the control torque that you are applying. So there is there should be an opposite reactive torque, you can say. Okay, how will you find that? Force into perpendicular distance. That means mg sin theta into L. Okay, so I can write Tc minus mgl sin theta equal to what? What will be that? Equal to I, the moment of inertia, into theta double dot. And what will be I here? The moment of inertia? I will be ml square. Okay. So let me take theta terms together. So I will get Tc equals I theta double dot plus mgl sin theta. Okay. So is this linear or non-linear? It is non-linear. Why? Because of sin theta. So the non-linear term sin theta has to be linearized. Okay. So try linearizing that and see what you're getting. So what's the equilibrium point here? Equilibrium point theta is equal to 0. Okay. So again, Taylor series f of x is f of x naught plus df by dx at x naught into x minus x naught or delta x, whatever it is. Okay. So what is f of x naught? F of x naught is what? Sine theta, sine 0. Sine 0 means 0. Df by dx is what? Cos x. Okay. So df by dx at x naught, what will you get? Cos 0. Cos 0 is 1. So that means you will get sine theta can be approximated as theta. Okay, x minus x naught. X, what is the variable x here? X is theta here, right? Theta minus 0. So you will get your sine theta as equal to theta. Okay, so what will be our torque equation? Our torque equation will be Tc equals, instead of I can put in terms of mass and length, ml square theta double dot plus mgl theta. Okay, so this is the differential equation governing the inverted pendulum. Okay, so in this way you have linearized the nonlinear system. Okay, now you can apply the techniques that we will be discussing throughout the course. Okay, this is how we have to do. So you see, it is a differential equation. So Laplace transforms comes as handy for solving differential equations. Okay. Otherwise, what you have to do, you have to remember what's the particular complementary function and particular integral for the given type of differential equations. Right. So here, in one go, initial conditions and everything else will be taken care of if you are going for Laplace transforms. Keep in mind, we are not going to derive any Laplace transforms. We will just do a quick review of Laplace transforms. Okay. Suppose you have a function f of t. Okay. So when you do a Laplace transformation, what happens? This time domain will get converted into S domain, and you will get f of s. Okay. How is that defined? It is given here. L of f of t is given nothing but integral 0 minus to infinity f of t e raised to minus st dt. Okay. Now, if you know f of s, how can you find f of t? You have to take L inverse. Okay. Laplace transform will convert it into S domain. Inverse Laplace transform will convert an S domain function into the time domain. Okay. And that is given by this formula. 1 by 2 pi j integral blah 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 f of s e raised to st ds. Why? So keep in mind, here it was e raised to minus st. When you take the inverse Laplace transform, it is the opposite inverse. It has to be e raised to plus st ds. Okay. This is how Laplace transform and inverse Laplace transforms are defined. So we are more interested in the sum of the end results. Okay, we will not derive any Laplace transform. We will just try to recollect some of the end results. First your function is f of t equal to delta of t. Okay, what is delta of t? Delta of t is an impulse. Impulse means what? A sudden shock, a quick shock. Okay, suppose you are hitting a nail with a hammer, right? So you will apply a large force for a very small duration of time. If you try to plot it in a graph kind of thing, then this will be your impulse. This is the impulse. Okay. So this is unit impulse, right? So this is what is unit impulse. So it exists only at t equal to 0, and everywhere else the function is 0. So that means it is just an impulse. It is just a sudden shock. Okay, that is why it is called an impulse function. So L of an impulse function is equal to 1. Okay, you need to remember that. Even though we are not going for its proof, you have to remember the end results. Then L of u of t. What do you mean by u of t? U of t means it's a step function. How does it look like? Say, for example, you are giving a constant force to something. You are giving a constant force. Say, in the case of pendulum, you are applying a constant force. It is fixed. Fixed at this position. Okay. So force is constant. That means it is a constant force. So you say it is a step input. Okay. If the magnitude is equal to 1, you have what is called a unit step input. So the L of u of t is nothing but 1 divided by s. Okay. Then you have L of t. T means the time function. Now, one more thing. In some books, they will always mention a u of t along with different time functions. It simply means that the function exists only from t equal to 0 onwards, positive time period. Okay. So even if you do not mention u of t along with each of these time functions, it is understood because we are dealing with LTI systems and our systems are causal systems. Okay, that means they exist only from t equal to 0 and t greater than 0. Okay. Yeah. So now, so L of t. T means what? It's a ramp function, right? So it will be something like this. Okay. So L of t means it is given by 1 by s square. So L of t raised to n will be what? L of t raised to n will be n factorial divided by s raised to n plus 1. That is what is given here. Okay. Then L of e raised to minus at. That is 1 by s plus a. Suppose it is L of e raised to plus at. Then what will be the Laplace transform? It would have been 1 by s minus a. Okay. So e raised to minus at, 1 by s plus a. E raised to plus at, 1 divided by s minus a. Okay. Now, L of sine omega t. What is that? Omega divided by s square plus omega square. Similarly, L of cos omega t will be s divided by s square plus omega square. Then, theorems. Okay. So, L of k into f of t. Say you are having some constant, say 5t. How will you find that? 5 into L of t. That means 5 by s square. Okay, L of 5t will become what? 5 divided by s square. That is what is shown here. Okay. Then if you have to take Laplace transform of sum of two functions, you can take the Laplace transform of the individual function and then you can add it up. Then f of t minus t. That means it's a delay. So e raised to minus st f of s. Okay. Then L of e raised to minus at f of t. It is nothing but f of s plus a. What do you mean by that? For example, suppose you are asked to find L of e raised to minus at t. Okay. So as per the theorem, what is that? It is the Laplace transform of f of s plus a. What do you mean by that? First, you find the Laplace transform of the time function. What is that? 1 by s square. Okay. Now, wherever you find s, replace s with s plus a. That will give you Laplace transform of e raised to minus at t. That is nothing but 1 divided by s plus a whole square. Okay. So whenever e raised to minus at or e raised to plus at, the exponential term comes together with another time function. What you have to do to find Laplace transform? First, you find the Laplace transform of the time function f of t. Wherever you find s, replace s with s plus a or s minus a appropriately. Fine. Then L of df by dt, derivative of a function. What is that? S into f of s minus f of 0 minus is the initial condition. Okay. L of d raised to n, nth derivative of a function will be s raised to n f of s minus blah blah blah. Then if you have an integral function, what will be the Laplace transform? It will be f of s divided by s. Okay. Then this is called final value theorem. Suppose you have a time function f of t, okay, whose final value you have to find. f of t. Okay, you want to find what's the final value, limit t tends to infinity f of t. Okay, if you know the Laplace transform, you can easily find it. That is given by limit s tends to 0 s into f of s. Okay, this is what is called final value theorem. Similarly, if you want to find the initial value of that time function, limit t tends to 0 f of t, what will be that? Limit s tends to infinity s into f of s. Okay, that is what is shown here. Initial value theorem and final value theorem. Okay, now I think it is time to try some examples. Okay, so let us take up some example just to brush up your concepts. So suppose your f of t is a e raised to minus at. Okay, what is your f of s? A is a constant, right? So whenever the exponential term comes along with the time function, you take the Laplace transform, and wherever you find s, replace s with s plus a. Okay, so it becomes a divided by s plus a. Fine. Next example, f of t is t e raised to minus 5t. How will you find the Laplace transform? What is Laplace transform of t? 1 by s square. So wherever you find s, replace s with s plus 5. So you will get 1 divided by s plus 5 whole square. Okay. Now, suppose you are given f of s. F of s is 2 divided by s plus 1 into s plus 2. You are asked to find what is f of t. How will you solve this? You have to go for partial fractions. Why? Because the degree of the denominator is greater than that of the numerator. Fine. So how will you solve this? A by s plus 1 plus b by s plus 2. Okay. You can solve for a and b and you can find what is f of s. So if you know a and b, what will be your f of t? F of t will be a e raised to minus t plus b e raised to minus 2t. Okay. A and b you can find by equating, and equating these two you can find a and b, and that should be 2 e raised to minus t minus 2 e raised to minus 2t. Okay. Again, one more question. F of s is 2 divided by s plus 1 into s plus 2 whole square. Okay. How will you solve this? You are asked to find what is f of t. How will you find? This can be expanded like a by s plus 1 plus b by s plus 2 plus c by s plus 2 whole square. Okay. To expand this and see what you are getting. Solve and tell me what are a, b and c. 2 by s plus 1 minus 2 by s plus 2 minus 2 divided by s plus 2 whole square. Okay. So now what will be your time function f of t? F of t will be 2 e raised to minus t minus 2 e raised to minus 2t minus 2t e raised to minus 2t. Okay. Is that fine? So last example. Suppose you are given a differential equation d square y by dt square plus 12 dy by dt plus 32y equals 32. Okay, you have to solve this differential equation. How will you solve this? You can again go for Laplace transform. Fine. So keep in mind what was L of s raised to n, L of d raised to n f by dt raised to n. It was s raised to n f of s minus initial condition terms. Okay. This we are going to make use of. Okay. So in this question, you are given a differential equation. Okay. What are the initial conditions? All initial conditions are 0. All initial conditions are 0. Okay, so straight away we are going to take Laplace transform. L of d square y by dt square, what will you get? S square y of s plus 12sy of s plus 32y of s equals 32 by s. Okay, because L of k, where k is a constant, is constant divided by s. So you will get 32 by s. So I can take y of s common. That means y of s into s square plus 12s plus 32 equals 32 by s. So what will be y of s? Y of s will be 32 divided by s into s square plus 12s plus 32. Okay. Again, you have to go for a partial fraction, and if you solve, you will get your y of t as 1 minus 2e raised to minus 4t plus e raised to minus 8t. Okay. So in this way, you can solve your differential equation. Is that fine? Okay. So now we will go to the last topic for the day. That is nothing but transfer function. Okay. What is transfer function? Transfer function is the ratio of Laplace transform of output to Laplace transform of the input when all initial conditions are 0. Okay. So you have a system, you are giving an input, you are having an output. So how can you model that system? The first step is to find its transfer function. Okay. What is transfer function? Take the Laplace transform of output. Take the Laplace transform of the input. Assume 0 initial conditions. Take the ratio. That should mathematically describe your physical system. Okay. In an approximate way. Why it's only an approximation? Because we are ignoring the initial condition dynamics. Initial conditions are 0. Suppose your capacitor has some charge, that has to be ignored. Okay. That has to be ignored. So this gives you only an approximation, not an exact representation. Okay. So here is the system G. Okay, you are giving an input R of t, and this is an output Y of t. Right. So what is Laplace transform? What is transfer function? Take the ratio of Laplace transform of output. That means Y of s. Okay. Laplace transform of input. That means R of s. Take the ratio. So Y of s by R of s will give you what is G of s. Okay. And G of s is called transfer function. Now there is an alternate definition to that. What is it? It is the Laplace transform of the impulse response of the system. What do you mean by response? Response means output as a function of time t. Okay. So impulse response means what is the output as a function of time t when the input is an impulse signal. Step response means what? What is the output as a function of time t when the input is a step signal. Okay. So let us see how we are arriving at this particular definition. Okay. So this is your system T of s. Okay. This is your R of t. You can say the input. This is your output Y of t. Now suppose I am giving an impulse input. Okay. So that means R of t is delta of t. Okay. What is transfer function? Ratio of Laplace transform of output. So Y of s is here. So Y of s, ratio of Laplace transform of output to Laplace transform of the input. What is Laplace transform of impulse? Laplace transform of impulse. What is that? We had seen that. Laplace transform of impulse. What is that? It is nothing but 1. Okay. Laplace transform of an impulse signal is always 1. So that means here when you take the Laplace transform, you get your R of s as 1. Okay. So that is also nothing but equal to G of s. So what is Y of s? Y of s is the Laplace transform of the impulse response. Okay. What is Y of t? Y of t is the impulse response. Correct? Take the Laplace transform. What will you get? Laplace transform of the impulse response. So that is what is written here. Laplace transform of the impulse response when all initial conditions are 0. Okay. So we will just take 1 or 2 examples and then we will stop. So in the inverted pendulum case, yeah, we were discussing that, right? So let us consider that inverted pendulum case. So we had linearized it. Okay. So what is the output variable here? It is theta. What's the input? It is the control. It is the torque, control torque TC. So how will you find the transfer function? Transfer function will be theta of s divided by TC of s. Okay. So how will you take, how will you find the transfer function? Take the Laplace transform. Tc of s equals ml square. It is theta double dot. That means s square theta of s. ml s square plus mgl into theta of s. Okay. So theta of s divided by Tc of s will be what? 1 divided by ml square s square plus mgl. Okay. So if you want, you can divide throughout with ml square. You can take it as a common. Okay, as a common factor. Right? If you do that, what will you get? If you do that, you will get 1 upon ml square whole divided by s square plus s square plus mgl divided by ml square. That means g by l. Okay. So this non-linear system has been represented approximately by a transfer function 1 by ml square divided by s square plus g by l. Okay. So this is the first step in control system. You must have the mathematical model of the linear system with which you wish to control. Okay. Now let us take one more example. So you are given a differential equation dc of t by dt plus 2c of t equals r of t. You have to, where c of t is the output variable, r of t is the input. C of t is the output variable. Okay. What's the transfer function? C of s by r of s. So whenever you take transfer function, you have to assume zero Elish conditions. Okay. Otherwise, transfer function cannot be defined. Okay. So what will be C of s by r of s? 1 divided by s plus 2. Okay. This will be the transfer function. Okay. Which is equal to g of s. Fine. Now, one more example. Suppose your differential equation is c triple dash t plus 2c double dash t plus 7c dash t plus 5c of t equals r double dash t plus 4r dash t plus 3r of t. What do you mean by dash? It means the derivative. Okay, that is another way of representing the derivative. C triple dash means d cube c by dt cube. C double dash means d square ct by dt square. R double dash means d square r by dt square. Okay. So r is the input variable and c of t is the output variable. Okay. So what will be the transfer function? C of s divided by r of s will be what? S square. Straight away you can write s square plus 4s plus 3 whole divided by s cube plus 2s square plus 7s plus 5. Okay. This will be the transfer function. Fine. So we'll stop here for the day. Thank you.